The problem with gold is it's just mixed with way too much dirt. And that's why God invented cleanup sluices. Well, not God, Dream Matt. This is black sand concentrates that came from my Can You Make a Living gold prospecting series. That's right, 6 months later and we're finally getting around to doing the cleanup. And a little side note about this baby. In my last video, I couldn't get my other battery to work and I asked for help. Some people said that it was too low in voltage and that the charger wasn't recognizing it, to simply connect it to a larger battery and leave it for 5 minutes before putting it in the charger. I did that and it worked a treat. So now I have 2 batteries, which is awesome. Thank you so much to all the people who know way more than I do about electricity and sharing those facts. They help a lot. The setup I'm using today is pretty simple. I'm using a tiny little gold cleanup sluice from Goldrat, a 500 gallon an hour bilge pump that I got from a local fishing shop, a speed controller and battery bank that I got from Gold Fox, as well as a catch pan for all the tailings, and a simple classifying system, which is nothing more than a kitchen strainer. The problem with black sand is it is often about half as heavy as gold, making it very difficult to separate away from it, especially when you have a quantity of it like this. The key to a successful cleanup starts in classification. Classification makes everything the same size, meaning that the more dense gold is going to outperform the finer black sand. Because gold weighs 19, black sand, in my case, weighs about 7. So we make them the same size, we're good. For today, we're going to use our kitchen strainer. It's not as tight as I could go, but it's still pretty decent. Whoa, it all fits! Look at that. I forgot we found a crystal in there. It's been so long that we've got some residue stuck to the bottom, and that is definitely going to have to come up because that's where the gold will have settled. The problem with dry pay dirt like this is it's hydrophobic. Now, being Australian, you might imagine that means that you're scared of some crazy animal, but it's not. It just means that you're scared of water. Well, you're not scared of water, the dirt's scared of water, and it actively tries to tell it to piss off. The problem with that is this dirt has your gold in it, so if the dirt's floating, so's your gold. Yeah, I know, 19 times denser than water, just like this, and it skates on by like all the gold ledges. So we add a bunch of water to the dirt, and that stops it from being hydrophobic. Isn't that right, Fernie? In the famous words of Jeremy Clarkson, speed and power. Rubber matting cleanup sluices are prone to having air bubbles form in the mat, and you must get rid of them before you start sluicing, otherwise the air bubbles will prevent your gold getting into the mat. I know, gold's super particular. It's like going to a dating site and there's like 65 requirements before you can swipe right. Like, must not have any living female relatives. And we can see here that the water is jumping into the middle of our slick pad. That means we've got a little bit too much because we want this as a dead area. Less power. And that seems to be a happy medium. And now it's just a whole bunch of spooning. This is a very short sluice box and we're definitely going to get lost. That's why we do multiple passes. Already, I can see a bunch of gold in the top microcells and even some in the mid-size. And we are on some pretty decent ground because every spoon of concentrates that I pull up, I'm seeing gold on it. Look at those pieces, dead center of screen right now. All the gold out of these concentrates was recovered using an old school 1850s design rocker box. It just goes to show you don't need the most up-to-date technology to get a decent result when it comes to gold. It's not the size of your high banker, it's where you stick it. It has been 37 degrees all day, and of course, it's about to storm. I'm only about half done, and it is starting to look real good. The amount of effort you go to get gold out of the ground, and it's just a gamble. You never know what you're gonna get. Sometimes it looks real good, and then you run over a sluice box like this and it just turns to shit real quick. In this case, it's kind of the opposite. It was pretty good ground, but not the best I've seen. I'm starting to see a lot more gold than I expected. Almost there, almost done. It's taken about 30 minutes to process this much dirt. This will definitely have to be gone over a second time because I'm seeing gold migration all the way down to the very bottom of this sluice box. And that is a super normal thing to happen. No matter what gold prospecting gear you use, you're going to get gold migration because not every type of gold likes to settle in the place that you've provided for it to settle. But right before we start losing too much light, it is lighting up with gold. Second last teaspoon. You can never really dig the dregs out of the bottom of the pan, but we try. That's going to be our last spoonful of sugar. It's always fun checking the dregs at the bottom of the pan, the stuff you can't scrape up. And we have got a lot of very fine pieces there. It's not meant to get dark for the next couple of hours, but I've had to turn the artificial sun on, which is making it very hard to show the gold, but there is a lot of it. Okay. Oh my dilly aunt, there is gold smattered in every cell. They're loaded. That one's full. That's mental. All the way to the top. Why'd I wait so long to clean this bucket out? Sometimes I'm a dickhead. Oh, lordy lordy. That is a good looking sluice box. It's hard to give you a proper visual on just how much gold is all through that black sand. We're definitely going to have to do a second pass on that other concentrate. But alas, it is about to storm, my dinner is ready, and it is nighttime. So tomorrow morning, we'll clean that out. It's the next day and it stormed pretty violently last night, but my sluice box survived in one piece, and in the bright daylight it looks even better. Now I know what you're thinking, Chris, what about all the oversize? Couldn't there be gold in that? Yes! Traditionally speaking, Reedy Creek gold is always super fine, just like this stuff. But occasionally you get what's called a sticker, which looks just like this. That lovely bit of gold came out of our oversize. Didn't do anything special, I just literally sat there and did this with my fingers. Ah, there's another shotgun pellet there. It's a bonanza! So I managed to recover 6 shotgun pellets, a piece of tourmaline, and 2 little pieces of gold. That is a nice big chunky flake there. For Reedy Creek, that's practically a nugget. Anyway, I got a plan. The gravel, black sand, and rock that collects around gold tends to be a little bit denser than the rock everywhere else in the creek. And therefore, it may have a chance in these small pieces of quartz to contain gold. So I'm gonna crush it. Come here, you bastard. You're all covered in dust. Right, if there was any gold in there, we will have released it. Don't really need to sluice this. I've got my scummy wheelbarrow water here to pan it off in. Now obviously there's going to be lots of big pieces of tin and black sand that were broken down. So we're going to see black sand, but what we want to see is maybe some really fine hard rock gold. And we'll know it's from hard rock because it'll be super bright. If it is from hard rock, it's going to be bright. It could possibly be very, very fine, or even still attached to a piece of quartz. What I'm looking for are 2 things that would indicate potential gold ore. That's sulfides, which is going to be a little bit hard to see through the black sand. It will be a silverish material. I'm looking for the telltale sign of hard rock gold, which is sharp pieces as opposed to water worn. So far I'm not seeing nothing, but we've definitely broken up like a bunch of either the black sand or we've released a bunch of sulfides. We do have gold in there. I would suggest that these tiny little pieces are not from hard rock. They're most likely going to have come from being stuck on a rock, like in a crevice or a crack in it or on some mud. And I say that because they're all that dull color. None of them are super bright like you get out of hard rock mines. Anyway, I think it's finally time to clean out the sluice box. After all these years of gold prospecting, I've come to realize that pretty much no idea is sacred. And what I mean by that is so many people are making gold prospecting content right now. You should see the gold just running out of this. So many people are making gold prospecting content right now that we often tread on each other's toes when it comes to creating ideas and showcasing what we're doing out in the creek. The other day, I created a video on a floating sluice box. I'm definitely not the first person to create that kind of video. In fact, there's a gentleman who is very close to me here in the northeast of Victoria who very recently published the exact same type of video. Completely different build setup, really interesting stuff. And I kind of want to encourage people to go check out his content because he's doing some really ingenuitive videos that ultimately I think will spark some ideas within the prospecting community. I've left a link pinned to the top of the comment section if you want to go check that out. In the meanwhile, check this out. I've still got pockets of gold all through this. This is the serious moment of truth. I remember it being a lot of work with that rocker box. Was it worth it? Oh, it was, it was, it was. That's mental. Look at that. Look how much gold there is. With the sluice box cleaned out, it was finally time to pull all the tailings back out of the tub and rerun them. Using a different angle and a different water speed allowed me to recover the gold that I'd lost the previous night. But I mean, you never truly lose the gold during a cleanup because it's just going to be at the tub and the end of your sluice, not back in the creek. I just finished the second run. All I did was change the pitch and flow rate on the sluice box to change what kind of gold was going to drop out of suspension. And therefore, in theory, we should see gold in here. It won't be anywhere near as much as the other pan. And we have got it. Look at that. Super fine stuff. That's what you get. You change the parameters, you change the type of gold you end up with. Obviously nowhere near as much as the first run, but definitely worth doing that second run because there's a considerable amount of gold in that, even though we got most of it on the first go. The next video that I'm publishing is going to be the next part of the Can You Make a Living on Gold Prospecting series. So if you haven't seen that, please check it out. I'll leave a link below or above. And if you're not already, consider hitting the subscribe button if you don't want to miss out on that video when it drops. Generally speaking, on a cleanup, there's a few steps that you would want to do at this point. You can classify further down and you could just do it one teaspoon at a time. There's a whole heap of different methods that all work. I just want to quickly have a look at how much gold we do have in this pan because it is looking brilliant. I got pixie ears for days coming out both sides. Man, that old rocker box does a pretty good job. I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who says that isn't a good day at the office. It is getting harder and harder to find gold on Reedy Creek, but when you do find it, man, it pays out. I'm gonna call that a fantastic day out on the creek. I'm gonna do the final cleanup on the next video, where I find out how much money I made working a solid week as a gold prospector.